Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Napoleon Total, and today we're back with another Enlisted video. And this time we're going to be covering the vehicle, and in this case the vehicle is going to be the A13, a British tank in Enlisted. This video will cover the vehicle and its history, how you should use it in Enlisted, and its playstyle. That said, let's get started, but before we do, this video has been made possible for the friends at this. If you haven't liked, subscribe, or joined the Discord, I highly suggest that you do. But that said, let's get started with the A13. The British development on their cruiser tanks advanced greatly with the implementation of the Christie suspension system, which were acquired from an American firm. The tank underwent a development program under the name Cruiser Mark III, or A13, and the first accepted variant of the military was the A13 Mark I. The Mark I featured a 15mm of armor, a 2-pounder gun, and a Vickers machine gun as its coaxial armament. An order of 65 of these were asked in 1939 at the Millfield Manufacturer and Auto Limited, but only 30 were made before a decision was made to upgrade the existing models with more armor and a different armament. The redesignated cruiser tank, the A13 Mark IV, the A13 Mark II, which is the one we have in game, Cruiser Tank Mark V, or Cruiser Tank Mark IV, was a new armor thickness of 30mm and additional sloping armor was put into the sides and rear of the turret. The Vickers machine gun was also as a coaxial armament was replaced by the BESA machine gun licensed by the Czech ZB-53 machine gun due to its issues with the Vickers gun. Although around 225 to 665 A13 and Mark IIs were produced from 1940 until late 1941. The A13 saw combat in the Battle of France under the British Expeditionary Force, or the BEF, in 1940. The A13 encountered many troubles during its employment. The crews had little to no training with the new tanks due to their rush adoption into service, and the tanks were in poor condition and some were even missing parts. The A13 was used by the 1st Armored Division, but many were destroyed by the superior German armored forces or abandoned at Calais during the evacuation of Allied troops at Dunkirk, which forced the units to leave behind their heavier equipment. After the disaster at France, the A13s were used to support the war. Some were sent to Greece to support their defense against Germany in the Battle of Greece, but a majority were sent to North Africa as part of the Western Desert Campaign near Libya under the 7th Armored Division, the Desert Rats. Compared to its time in France, the A13 in North Africa fared much better, ironing out most of its initial defects and even more suited to the environment than other tank designs. The A13 was popular with the crew of its high speed, reliability, a powerful 2-pounder gun that could engage the majority of Axis tanks in 1941. However, there was an insignificant number of A13s available for use, so tank units were mixed with the faster cruiser tanks and the slower infantry tanks, which caused tactical and logistical difficulties trying to accommodate all the tanks. Another deficiency was with the tank and every other British tank was the 2-pounder was the lack of high explosive shell issued to the tankers, which made them vulnerable to anti-tank guns, which caused the majority of British tank losses in North Africa. Still, the A13 fared very well with its armament until the late 1941, where the better armored Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs began appearing on the battlefield. Due to its growing obsolescence in all of the battlefield, the A13 was replaced in 1941 by the better armored A15 cruiser tanks. And that is all it for the characteristics and the history, apparently. Let's move on to the stats. In terms of the stats of the A13 Mark II was an early version of the British cruiser tank, so hence this is the A13 Mark II. It has a 40mm 2-pounder cannon with 87 rounds, a crew of 4, a 7.7mm Vickers machine gun of 3,500 rounds, which is interesting considering that the Vickers was actually replaced by the BESA machine gun. The whole armor is 30mm in front, 14 on the side, 14 on the back, 6 on the bottom. Turret armor 14mm, side of 10mm, 14 on the back, and 30 on the top, which is kind of funny considering the fact that this turret armor has more on the top than on the sides, front or back, which is a pretty big deficiency. The engine power is 28.9 h-power at 150 RPM, and is a weight of 14.5 tons. This means that this tank is pretty fast, but that said, let's move on to the recap section and talk about how fast this thing is. To recap, the A13 is a pretty good tank. Like I said, the speed is the main selling point of the A13, and the diameter, which actually follows that. The A13 is actually pretty good for a tank, whereas the diameter is pretty fast for a vehicle. The A13 literally has 289 horsepower at 150 RPM, which means this tank can literally fly. And its good gun, which is a 2-pounder, can actually do pretty well considering the fact that the 2-pounder is very good at literally just having an RPM. The Italian M1441 tank does have slightly more armor, but the 813 makes up for that in speed and a good cannon and a better machine gun, of which the Italian machine gun isn't really that good. The 40mm 2-pounder cannon is very quick firing, and as a matter of fact, I will use that cannon to just hit the enemy gunners and then just take the rest of the crew out before you do anything. The HE shell on this thing is pretty bad, but what can you expect from a 2-pounder? It can still get the job done, but you will be mainly using your machine gun to get most of the kills. And yeah, this thing can really flank, which I guess it was historically made to, considering the fact that it is a cruiser tank, so basically a cavalry tank. And yeah, just use this tank like a regular tank. Honestly, it's really fast. It literally has no armor, so you have to be careful. But you will be outrunning most people throwing explosive charges at you, so that's a good thing. But that said, this is the 813, a pretty fast tank, a pretty good firing gun. And that is all it for this video, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.